LFA crowned a new heavyweight champion. AJ McKee has become the face of Bellator as the promotion has always hoped. And Sean Strickland took a step forward towards title contention in the UFC's middleweight division. Welcome to Cage Minds MMA show. I'm Micah Frankel. Let's get to the fun. And you can check out all the results at cageminds.com. That'd be very much appreciated. Around the world, one championship action. The card opened up with the Phenom Victoria Lee. She's now 2-0 and this time gets it done with an armbar in the first round. Gustavo Ballart picks up a decision victory in a hard-fought contest. I told you to watch out for him last week. And getting back into the win column is Ong Lang Sang with the first round knockout of Leandro Ortiz, letting the hands go and finding that confidence once again. LFA 113. As I told you, a new heavyweight champion was crowned in the main event, and it took just 62 seconds as Thomas Peterson, Vernon Lewis, the big boys threw down. It was Peterson with the 1-2 down the middle. Lewis the splits. It's one of those flash knockdowns, so Lewis is able to pop back up, a right hand drops him back down, and the ref jumps in. The belt is around the waist of Thomas Peterson, and I would not be surprised if this is a very quick call-up to the UFC 5-0 first round knockouts. That's the kind of stuff that gets the UFC matchmakers salivating like it's a big steak dinner. We also had some other incredible finishes on the card. It's not often seen. It's pretty rare in MMA, but Chris Brown does it from inside the clinch, pulling out the legs. The slam. The slam is so vicious that short notice opponent Glacio Ilerzo taps out. It's a verbal submission from the slam, causing an injury. You don't often see it. Remaining unbeaten, that was the theme of the card. A beautiful guillotine choke from Alden Correa against Donny Balyu. Correa got the early takedown. Balyu was able to, from the half guard, turn on the inside, get up to his own takedown, but it was a high elbow guillotine getting the tap early. Submissions were great early on in the card, including Giovanna Canato. She gets stuck on the feet. The jiu-jitsu fighter gets the double leg takedown, fighting for the submissions. It's a triangle to a leg lock, and eventually the verbal submission from a heel hook, 210 of the first round. Again, cageminds.com for the full results of LFA 113. I had so much fun watching that card. That was Friday night. We jump on over to Saturday, where Bellator returned to Los Angeles, California. The first time they had left the fight sphere. First time they had been out of Connecticut in oh so long, over a year. Back to LA, back to the Forum, and it's the finals of the Featherweight Grand Prix with the title on the line. The multiple-time champion, the two-division champion, Patricio Pitbull, defending against AJ McKee, and McKee gets it done as he did throughout the tournament in spectacular fashion. Heading in, it was the question. It was the guy that had dominated Bellator, that has made his brand superior in Bellator, in Patricio Freire, against the guy that was brought up in Bellator, the guy that was brought up for this moment, that had the led career by the matchmaking of Bellator to get him ready for this moment. A left head kick, a swarm of punches, the knockdown happens, Pitbull's back to his feet, McKee jumps on the guillotine, and all that stops Pitbull from dropping to the floor is the referee, as we had the technical submission. Pitbull was out on his feet. It's the moment that Scott Coker, that Bellator, that Viacom had been hoping for. AJ McKee, he's now the featherweight champion of Bellator. He wins $1 million. He wins the Featherweight Grand Prix. He's 18-0, and it was 3 first-round finishes. It was an incredible path through this 16-man tournament. Yes, it was elongated. It took way longer than it should. This celebration probably should have been 4 to 6 months ago if it wasn't for this whole pandemic, unfortunately. But what we do have now, what we deal with, is the reality that AJ McKee is everything Bellator hoped for. They have a fighter that is must-see. They have a fighter that you need to have Showtime to watch and that you should have Showtime to see. He is must-see TV. He's a guy that makes fans interested in the sport. He has a personality that it came off a little rough early on with some of his promos in Bellator, but he's grown. He's endeared himself to this crowd, and he got to do what he did, this remarkable feat in front of his hometown, being right there in Los Angeles, California, right there in the Forum where you had seen so many Lakers championships. To be a California kid and accomplish it, it's all the moment that it could be. You saw the champagne bath, you saw an electric finish, an electric crowd, and then a celebration that was worthy of this moment. We take a brief breath, we enjoy the moment, and now what's next? Well, obviously, and we knew heading into this fight, that McKee was going to want to move up to 155 pounds to chase Pitbull. As I mentioned, the two-division champion. Friday had the 45 and 55 title. Now that he's lost one to McKee, if you didn't see during fight week, this was heated. It's bordering on personal, the allegations and remarks that are flying back and forth between these two individuals. There is disdain now. It's not just fight hype, it is disdain, I believe, for one another. And that's why you're going to see AJ McKee immediately want to go up to 155 pounds and take Friday's other title. Is that really what Bellator wants? I don't think so. Is it really what's best for 145 pounds and the featherweight division? It's definitely not. Bellator has already announced Adam Boris versus J.J. Wilson, an expected #1 contender, a title eliminator. The winner of that fight is expecting to get an opportunity at the winner of this fight. But everybody that was anybody already knew McKee's looking at 155 pounds. In a recent interview I was reading of his, McKee has already pointed out it is a hard process to make 145 pounds, and he feels that his journey in this weight class has come to an end. It was a successful championship journey with a great 18-0 mark, but that time has come possibly unless it is a big money fight, a large opportunity. AJ McKee is talking about, I'll do a crossover matchup. There's PFL champions, there's ONE champions, there's a litany of incredible names to fight in the UFC. We're talking about to keep McKee, the mercenary, at 145 pounds. He wants that big money fight. He wants a big opportunity, and I don't think just defending that Bellator featherweight title is going to really satisfy his appetite. I do believe that going up to 155 and taking Pitbull's title and really putting a stamp on this rivalry, that would definitely quench his thirst. You could also throw in, is there going to be a period of negotiation? Will ONE championship, will the UFC have an opportunity to talk to AJ McKee, who at this moment has obviously went from being a mixed martial artist to quantifying himself as a prize fighter and as a big-time, known, quantifiable entity? Definitely, with the knockout win, we are in a different era with AJ McKee. Most likely, I believe, Bellator is going to run that 155 fight. We're going to see McKee versus Friday one more time, up a weight class. Keep your eyes on AJ McKee. He's going to be involved in some big fights for the foreseeable future. Now, also at Bellator 263, results at cageminds.com, adding another feather into the cap at 145 pounds. If AJ McKee really is done with the division and Bellator wants to keep it rolling, Mads Burrell in the co-main event beats Emmanuel Sanchez by unanimous decision. It's now an 8-fight win streak, 4-0 in Bellator. You saw the grappling. It was a great job of Burrell to be able to win on 2 judges' scorecards, all 3 wins against a guy that I have enormous respect for. And at 155 pounds, there's a line of guys that would like to be challenging Friday for the title, including Usman Nurmagomedov. Runs his record to 13-0, defeating Manny Moreau. I had the opportunity to talk to Manny leading into the fight. He knew this was going to be a tough one. Fought it into the clinch as he does, being aggressive, and it was a perfectly placed knee from Nurmagomedov that drops Moreau. Follow-up ground and pound, finishes it off. Islam Mamedov with the split decision win over Brent Primus. That's 20 wins now, 1 loss, 1 draw. Mamedov moves forward. Goichi Yamauchi, the TKO, it was a ferocious just under 4 minutes between him and Chris Gonzalez, but you saw the striking when he needed to use it. Some great kicks. The Brazilian is back in the win column. So after it seemed like not having seen them in forever, 155 pounds really is back on the map with one good night there at Bellator 263. 45 and 55 is all the talk right now for Bellator. Also on Saturday, this was a head-to-head. Well, that Bellator card was going on in Los Angeles, California, over there at the Apex in Las Vegas. We're talking about a couple hours down the road. You had the UFC Fight Night card, the top 15 ranked middleweights. Number 11, Sean Strickland taking on number 8, Uriah Hall. This one was available on ESPN and ESPN Plus. And the main event, we kind of touched on it last week. Sean Strickland can become an avalanche. When he gets going forward, when he gets his momentum going downhill, he is hard to stop. In the same way that both of these guys, if they get backing up, can lose confidence and kind of be put on that back foot. I felt that this was going to be a dramatic beating one way or the other, because of those kind of characteristics for both guys to either be that bully or to shrink. And unfortunately for Uriah Hall, it was Sean Strickland pushing the pedal to the metal immediately. The jab, the overhand right, a consistent diet of the basics from boxing, and incredible pressure, threatening the takedowns even if he wasn't able to get them, and talking about a landslide. One judge goes all 5 rounds plus a 10-8 for Strickland. Another one just all 5 to Strickland. One judge does give a round to Uriah Hall. Hall landed some crushing jabs. To Strickland's credit, he was able to eat some of these big shots, continue to move forward, just press the pace. Now where do we go with our main event fighters? Uriah Hall had all kinds of momentum coming off of the Chris Weidman fight. As strange as it ended, maybe it's time for the rematch. Maybe it's time we see Calvin Gastelum and Uriah Hall run it back one more time. This loss would put them right there near each other, fighting to keep ahead, keep in that top 10. Who's at 9, who's at 10? Well, on the other side with the victory, Strickland should be able to just jump up there and take that number 8. Looking at Darren Till, Jack Hermanson up above him. Derek Brunson probably not looking down that far. Okay, now we'll jump to the co-main event where you get a great story, a sad story, an incredible finish. Let's talk about the fight first before I get into the storylines. Cheyenne Bays, Gloria DePaulo, early on into the clinch. Bays gets the takedown with the trip, getting some ground and pound, stands up, and then sometimes, man, you just gotta say F it. You gotta go for the Hail Mary. There's no guts, there's no glory, right? And that's when, as DePaulo is getting up, Bays launches this left head kick. And why is it a head kick, no guts, no glory? Because we are within fractions of an inches of DePaulo's hand just getting off the mat. That hand's still on the mat. This is totally illegal, and it is a disqualification. Hand off the mat, Bays lands a beautiful head kick. DePaulo hits the ground, jumps right back up, but Bays is able to jump on top into mount, a couple follow-up left hands, and you have a highlight reel knockout, a crazy 1 minute in the co-main event, a performance bonus that helps out Miss Bays, who said she was $15,000 in debt after moving her family from Texas to Las Vegas. It's great to see somebody be able to change their life with the sport that they've been dedicating to so long. It brings up so many other questions about fighter pay. Coming in on short notice, Jared Gooden, the 1-2s were sharp. Big knockout win over Nicholas Stoltz. Meslik Darsani is an incredible prospect to keep an eye on. A southpaw who wings in vicious left body kicks. That left hand was going up high, hard, then winging to the body, and not to mention the knee ripping to the ribs. Gets the knockout in the second round. It was a head kick that sent Colin Angle crashing to the ground dramatically. Couple follow-up shots for the ref to jump in. And also gotta love how the card opened up at the UFC Fight Night as Philip Rowe defeated Orion Kosi. Spent the first round on his back. The second round, the straight rights did damage, and Philip Rowe picks up his first UFC win. Gonna touch on the fight of the night real quick. Skipped over it. Zurich Adeshev and Ryan Benoit. That was quite the war. Adeshev took away Benoit's right leg early on with devastating calf kicks. Benoit had to change up his stance and then still was able to fight back, scoring a knockdown, being aggressive, making the rounds interesting all the way through. But Adeshev showing why, with just a 3-2 record, this man had received a call to the octagon. An incredible kickboxer who put his full set of skills on display. Touching on some of this week's biggest headlines. Gotta mention that this past weekend's UFC card lost 5 fights, including Nico Montano's fight being canceled when she missed weight. This week, I will have an interview with Landon Dyksterhouse, who is the filmmaker for Warrior Spirit, the documentary focusing on Nico Montano that's going to be debuting this week. Not every fight was canceled due to weight issues. There was visa issues. There were still COVID issues. So a lot of issues from this past weekend's UFC event. On some brighter news, we got some fight announcements to talk about. Ricky Simone versus Timur Valiev. That one's been added to UFC 266 on September 25th. UFC 268, that's Usman versus Covington 2, has gained the co-main event. And this one is going to be a Fight of the Year candidate that everybody's been asking for. Justin Gaethje's going to fight Michael Chandler. That is so freaking awesome. Former women's UFC bantamweight champion Holly Holm going back up to 145. She's going to take on Norma Dumont. That's October 16th, a UFC Fight Night. October 23rd's UFC Fight Night will be headlined by a top 5 middleweight matchup as Paulo Acosta will be taking on Marvin Vettori. And in other breaking UFC news that we just got in, former bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt is officially dropping down to flyweight. His first matchup will be December 11th with Kai Kara France, the number 7 ranked 125er in the world. Bellator also has a card on October 16th. It's Bellator 266, light heavyweight Grand Prix semifinals. Light heavyweight title fight, Vadim Nemkov, Anthony Johnson. Yes, that is the semifinal in the Grand Prix. Also, heavyweight champion Ryan Bader, Corey Anderson, the other semifinal. And Bellator Moscow is October 23rd. Former heavyweight champion Vitaly Minikov is going to be taking on top prospect Terrell Fortune. And in a bit of LFA news, LFA 115 will be September 24th in Wisconsin. The main event is the rebooking of the vacant light heavyweight title fight. Joshua Silverio is going to be taking on Jesse Murray. Now, as we turn our attentions to this week's action, there is a ton of stuff on tap, guys. Springfield, Massachusetts, UFC Fight Pass, a 7 p.m. Eastern start time for CES MMA 63 heavyweight main event. UFC vet Jorgen De Castro versus PFL vet Rakeem Cleveland. Then you head on down to Miami. 8 p.m. Eastern start time on UFC Fight Pass for Titan FC 71. The return of former Strikeforce champion Nate Marquardt, one of my favorites. Former Titan and WSOF featherweight champion Andre Harrison on the card. Not to mention a pair of unbeaten prospects are going to be featured. Devin Dixon and Ryan Hughes. A main event featherweight title fight. You have Andrew Whitney versus Ali Al-Qazi, a UFC vet. And then you have also Lux 105 from Tijuana, Mexico. Unbeaten Tiana Torres versus Sara Orcozo is going to be your main event. It's a strawweight title fight. Prelims, yes, prelims are available 7 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 2. main card can be found at 10 p.m. Eastern on UFC Fight Pass. But you don't have to leave Fox Sports 2 if you want to continue to watch MMA action, because after those Lux 105 prelims, you get XFC 45 from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Your main event is Guillermo Ferreira versus UFC vet Darren Cruikshank. So you have a hard-charging Muay Thai fighting Brazilian against a karate stylist American with a strong wrestling game. Co-main event, it's the welterweight tournament finals. Bobby Nash, he earned his way there with 2 first-round knockouts, is going to be taking on Quentin Parks Jr., a short-notice replacement for LaRue Burley, who unfortunately occurred a hand injury recently. Also on the card, you have XFC's top prospect, Austin Bashi. He's going to be going to work. And then preceding XFC 45, you get XFC Young Guns 3. The main event, it's going to be 2 guys making their professional debuts, Damon Roscoe and Jet Grande. Grande, all kinds of hype. Can't wait to see what he's all about. So it is a wild Friday night of MMA action all over the place, leading up to UFC 265 on pay-per-view, ESPN Plus pay-per-view on Saturday night. Interim heavyweight title fight. If you can get past the drama of what's going on with the UFC and Francis Ngannou, get past all that. 5 rounds, 2 amazing heavyweights. Derek Lewis at 25-7, Ciryl Gane at 9-0. Derek Lewis is your number 2 ranked heavyweight, while Ciryl Gane 3. It's still an incredible matchup. I mean, a lot of fun here. Lewis on a 4-fight win streak, incredible one-punch knockout power. You forget that he's the top knockout artist all time for heavyweights in UFC history. 20 of his 25 wins by knockout. That right hand touches you, you're going to sleep. The uppercut is vicious, the straight is vicious, the overhand is vicious. Any way that man touches you, it is vicious. It is ridiculous the amount of power that Lewis is able to generate in any space. It is imperative not to get hit. Ciryl Gane does an incredible job of distance control. I mean, outside of John Jones, he has done an incredible job of distance control, of using his long-range weapons to keep fights where he wants them to be fought out, or getting on the inside and getting to the clinch. We saw in his win against Junior Dos Santos, that Muay Thai background, devastating elbow finish. You've seen, like against Dontel Mays, a heel hook. For a man who came with a Muay Thai kickboxing pedigree over to mixed martial arts, Gane has translated to the grappling unlike many have done, and that's been a huge bonus. But coming into this fight, his 240-pound frame with an untraditional wrestling background against a Derek Lewis who has been notoriously either hard to take down, or when he has been taken down, has used just untechnical, ferocious strength to get back up to his feet. You have to feel like Gane is going to fight this one for 25 minutes, looking to kick the legs, take apart his opponent's base, maybe hit the body, and try to stay away. If you're Lewis, as always, you're looking for that moment to explode, attack, and devastate. We've seen in his last 2 wins, Alexei Oleinik had put Lewis in some bad predicaments, horrible situations. The power, the strength, it was too much. Throwing Oleinik over and getting the finish. Curtis Blades was fighting a beautiful first round and then made one mistake, not setting up his shot, and the uppercut was all she wrote, ladies and gentlemen. It's that kind of power. It's that fight-changing, life-changing, night-changing ability that Derek Lewis brings. He is the king of Houston. He has been beloved. This is his card in his city for a reason. Gane has to stay long. He's went 25 minutes in his last 2 fights, and he's shown the ability to get all the way to that decision. We've seen Derek Lewis go 15 before. He looks to have fought through his back injury. His cardio looks to be on another level. Gane will look to take this to deep waters. It'll be interesting to see if Lewis can swim there and if Gane can survive that long with a menacing puncher. Interim title fight, this heavyweight fight is going to be a good one. Now, unfortunately, this card was also expecting to see, and I should have mentioned it because it was going to be the main event, Amanda Nunes against Juliana Pena. Nunes testing positive for COVID, negating that fight. Hopefully she can get well soon, and they can rebook the women's bantamweight title fight. Our co-main event, it's still a great one. It's still featuring a legend. You get to see Jose Aldo, the former featherweight champion of the world, coming in as the number 5 ranked bantamweight against number 9 ranked Pedro Munoz. You got Aldo coming in as a slight favorite in this one. Surprisingly, Gane is a slight favorite in that main event. I think people are really expecting his technical ability. From Jose Aldo, we've got to be asking ourselves, what kind of Aldo do we see? Do we see the boxer? Do we see the kickboxer? We all love it when we see the kickboxer. He's taking on a Pedro Munoz, who has a powerful right hand and a killer guillotine. He knows what it would mean to beat a legend. The feature fight is going to be number 6 versus number 5 at 170. Vicente Luque against UFC analyst Michael Chiesa. Chiesa has shown incredible back control, incredible submissions, and an evolved striking game in his win over Neil Magny that I frankly didn't expect him to have. In this one, you have a forward-coming, loving to brawl, heavy-handed Vicente Luque who always outperforms your expectations. Except here, where I really do believe Michael Chiesa is on a path to a title shot. This one is going to be a dogfight. Also on the main card, you have a top 15 women's strawweight matchup. Tisha Torres, we know she has a karate stylist and is a willing participant of chasing the takedown, taking on Angela Hill, who's number 12 at 115. Hill is a Muay Thai striker who wants to keep the fight standing. And making its way up to the main card after the loss of that women's bantamweight title fight, you have just outside of the rankings at 135, Casey Kenny, Song Yadong. This one is going to be a mad dash for scrambles, and both guys look to add power and emphasis to their punches. So I feel like this 5-fight main card is really stacked nicely for a pay-per-view offering. Your ESPN prelims are featured by a lightweight matchup. You got Rafael Fiziev, 9-1, taking on Bobby Green. Fiziev is the striking coach out of Tiger Muay Thai. The dude, seriously, with his striking, can move in and out of the matrix. He is showing the official skills of being able to grapple and being able to strike. Right here is a big test, taking on a veteran like Bobby Green, who has been there, who has seen it, and who has put himself on a nice win streak recently to really be garnering a lot of attention. At 205 pounds, you have Alonzo Menafield versus Ed Herman. It's a total clash of styles. Menafield is explosive. He gets guys out of there early, while Herman is a grinder that wants to take you into deep waters. Now, as we look at the early prelims, we got some interesting stuff going on in UFC Fight Pass. The feature fight is in the flyweight division. Manel Camp, former Ryzen champion, finishes in 14 of his 15 wins, takes on Ode Osborne, who has 8 of his 9 wins by finishes, 4 knockouts, 4 submissions. You also got in the bantamweight division, former LFA champion Miles Johns, the guy technically solid everywhere. Most of his wins come by decision. His last win by knockout, taking on Anderson Dos Santos, 17 finishes, 5 knockouts, 12 by submission. Also on that card, making her UFC debut, Brazil's Melissa Gatto faces Victoria Leonardo. Both ladies 4 submission finishes. So there you have it. UFC 265. Early prelims, UFC Fight Pass. That's at 6 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's ESPN for the middle prelims. And then that ESPN Plus pay-per-view at 10 p.m. Eastern. I'd appreciate it if you visit the website. Once again, it's cagedminds.com, and also support Caged Minds across social media. On Facebook, Caged Minds Combat Sports News. On Instagram, that's CageMinds_CSN for Combat Sports News. Over on Twitter, it's the original at Caged Minds MMA. The podcast, wherever you can find it, is Caged Minds. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the video, and it's rate, review, and share if you're over listening to the podcast.